What's good with it? Lucky Lefty podcast. The Nora Boys in the building. Brought to you by Onora Whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. That premium American whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. And if you drink, by all means, make sure that you do so.
Responsibly.
I am sitting in the midst of a winter wonderland today, Left. Dude, if you miss the Midwest, I can give it to you in totality today, Left. I can
Yeah,
give it
that's a
all to you. I see the sunshine behind you.
I want to show you outside. You might think I'm in a whole nother country.
Dude, it's snowing in Florida. I got 6 inches overnight, expected another 4 to 5 inches throughout the day. I stepped outside. When it came inside, came from my parents' house. Nothing. Woke up this morning, went to take the garbage out, and immediately said to myself, I am not shoveling today. I don't
Yeah,
care.
I don't miss that.
I don't
Shoveling.
care. No, not this. You've seen my driveway. I'm not shoveling that.
Not even worth it today.
No, I said if I see a nice little fort, because all the kids are out of school today. Now that's a good thing about the Midwest when you get these type of days.
It's bad enough where they shut down the schools.
Oh yeah, they shut down the Chicago public schools, the suburbs, and the
I
crazy thing
remember
is
when we used to wait up early in the morning for them delays to come out.
on the early news to see if your
Yeah, you
schools
used to
get shut down.
sit
Right,
there and wait.
hoping
We on there. That's right.
absolutely. But this is the kicker though: the kids that got shut down, especially the Catholic schools, the kids are still in class at home.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing now with
That's
technology. It's like,
2024. Yeah, that's
yeah,
2024. Yeah, you gonna
yeah.
get the iPads at the crib.
hmm
Meet on Zoom.
See, the Chicago public school system, they don't mind accumulating days on the back end, right? So say the final day is like June the 12th. Snow days just get added to the back day. So you have an extra day of school in the back end. Half the schools are like, nah,
We on schedule.
we on schedule. Absolutely. So I hope everyone is safe where you are. If you don't have to go out, man, stay warm inside your cribs and be thankful that you have that warmth. And if you do have to travel, be safe, man. Because it's crazy out here in the Midwest, especially the Chicagoland area. Today, we're going to talk about transfer safety Rod Hurd from Northwestern. We got another safety transfer from Northwestern. I'm sure
Pipeline is
Malik.
strong. We've
I'm,
drawn a strong pipeline.
I'm sure Malik.
I don't even think it's a pipeline because we don't give them nothing. That's like, hold on now. Wait a minute.
We got Ben Skoranek from him.
Yeah, Brandon Joseph. I mean,
Ryan
we getting all these
Joseph.
guys and we not giving them anything. This sounds like a thrift store shopping.
Well, that's been the Chicago pipeline over the last 10 years.
The garage sale, Northwestern garage sale, we be first in line. Just getting all the antiques on these shelves and bringing it back home. But man, I mean, I guess our players aren't good enough for Northwestern. Who knows?
So I did talk to Northwestern radio analyst Ted Albrecht. Was good guy. He's been a good guy to me in my career, and just asked him for his thoughts. And he said, "Yo, you're getting a leader on the back end." He was one of the biggest leaders and one of the reasons that the Northwestern team was able to get over all the all-season stuff.
I believe that he got some intangibles. Okay.
Has great intangibles, great leadership. He's from Michigan, from the Midwest area, so he's very familiar with Notre Dame,
The
understands the
only
culture.
problem I have with guys from Northwestern secondary is they're big like linebackers.
No, he's like 5'11", 190.
But
He's not that tight.
man, even they corner, they look like some dudes. They not no fly around skinny dudes at all. They are they usually been some heavy setter guys, But
Yeah.
I do appreciate the fact that it's a local guy. I think it's always good to have a good amount of Midwest on your team in general. And to have somebody that's familiar with what Notre Dame is, I think also helps. It's a little different when you're coming from like Oklahoma State, where yeah, you've heard of Notre Dame, you may have played them once or twice, but you don't know the weight of it. When it comes to knowing expectations and what the perception is. So I do think that helps. Um, but another guy coming into a situation where we're adding value, you got to prove the value you add over what we're giving to you. So
And that's, because we want to see Ben Minich and Adon Schuler develop, get on the field, play, right? The
right.
breakdown I got about Rod Herb is he's athletic. He can play nickel in certain positions, but he is a very strong safety, good with communication. He's going to make sure that everybody's in the right spot, right? So I know people might get scared because they say, "Yo, that sounds like DJ Brown." He's a man. He's more athletic than DJ Brown. Hopefully, he has better hands than DJ Brown. So,
I
so
mean, our
when
the way our schedule's set up, listen, this is a slam dunk year
it
if you
is,
were a transfer. Because you're going to come into a situation where you're going to be outmatching who you're playing. So the plays aren't going to be necessarily too hard to understand.
hmm
And you're going to have a solid schedule. So, I mean, hey, I believe that our evaluation of 2024 is going to come in the playoffs.
yeah,
Because it's going to be very misleading this regular season. Because people are going to, and rightfully so. You can only play and do well against who you're matched against. However, the true test will come during the playoffs because you can evaluate, you know, what the talent looks like when the chips are all pushed in. So I do think this pressure that's taken off of Notre Dame's regular season, I think it's good to see guys develop. My whole goal for the regular season next year is to see these young guys get better and pop on the scene as the year goes on. So a guy that may get his first 4 games in and they sparingly use it, and every time he gets in, he's showing something a little better, and
hmm
that bodes well for playing these 24 freshmen. Putting Aeneas Williams in there somewhere. You got games to play with, because when it comes to playoffs, you need to have your depth chart understanding down pat. What are those rotations? Like the Lakers having huge problems with rotation right now. But by that time, after All Star break, when the season starts, it's on and popping.
Lakers have a lot of problems starting at the top, but people don't want to talk about it. Lucky Lefty podcast. So today we're going to talk about, give you a little more on Rod Hurd. Like I said, Ted Albrecht gave me a few words about the young man. He is a Northwestern color analyst for the radio side. And then, we're going to get to what Malik wants to see. What improvements does he want to see from every quarterback in the Notre Dame quarterback room? I can't wait to get to that discussion. And, I hope Malik keeps it positive. He's going to try to talk about everybody, but I hope he keeps it positive. And then, breaking news, Left. Did you hear about the news of Mike Norvell and Florida State? Um, might be in a little trouble, bro. Some NIL infractions.
I
And
mean,
we'll
it
talk
makes
about,
sense. Makes sense to see a team go 13-1 like that. That's just like how they do it in the NFL. If a player has a crazy game, as soon as he gets to the locker room, they drug testing him. The NCAA just tested the Florida State program right after a successful season because it was too much of an outlier. How y'all go from a middle of the pack team, y'all 13-1, and crying about not getting to the playoffs? Now, had a lot of transfers that made their team look different. So, it's one of those things.
now this is from Ted Albrecht, right? This is a direct quote. So Notre Dame people don't get mad at me. It's a direct quote. He says Rod Hurd is a downhill guy, gap supporter, great run supporter, and tackler. He knows the defense in and out and is a great leader. He's had some problems, with academics at Northwestern. Hopefully, going to Notre Dame, he gets those things in order. He's a very popular teammate and a hard hitter. So that's what you're getting with Rod Hurd, and that comes from Ted Albrecht, the Northwestern color analyst at WGN in Chicago. So Notre Dame fans, how do you like what you heard about Rod Hurd? No pun intended. Rod Hurd, the second safety transfer coming into Notre Dame. He gives, if he indeed is the starter next to Xavier Watts, they might be one of the best tackling and hitting safety combos in the country.
Definitely solid. Definitely a guaranteed open field tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that'll curb a lot of the. I just think the maturity of a year three Al Golden defense with some first round guys on the table,
Mm-hmm.
I think makes it even better for younger guys to step in the roles to get better and get experience in, but also a chance for us to put us in a place where offensively we gotta obviously hold our weight, and a heavy focus is going to be on that because a lot of people are going to know our defense is what would appear to be the strength of the team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's expected to be the strength of the team. Now, offense is the gift that keeps on giving, and the effort they give is a bonus. But the foundation of this team next year is going to be defensively because we got the most stars over there. Naturally, I mean, it should be a Ben Morrison team, Xavier Watts led. Riley Mills is in there too, right? He came back.
Mm-hmm.
Howard Cross. It should be some stars defensively and highlighted by some young, up and coming linebackers that should make an appearance in the Jaden Ausberries and Bowens and guys of that nature. So I think it's an opportunity for defensively for young guys to come in and really hold their weight in a defense that's going to be structured pretty securely from a top down level. And then offensively, we got to find out of the bunch of guys we're collecting what's going to make the engine go. Right now, we just building the car and it looks really nice. But can it drive? We got a good driver. We got a good passenger. We got a nice dude on the aux.
Mm.
We done put the spoiler kit on the back. We done chopped the top, put the little sunroof in there. Got the 24 Daytons. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. And then we done hit the never flat tires. I mean, we done built it out real nice. But can it get on the road and drive? That's what we're gonna have to figure out this season. Can we drive at a good speed to get us to the playoffs where we can take off? And a lot of questions are to be asked, but from a team standpoint, I mean, we got a pretty damn nice car.
Mm-hmm. Second half of the show, like we said, we're going to get to the quarterbacks. We're going to talk about this Florida State sanctions that are coming down pretty heavy. Story over at Yahoo Sports. Whew. This might be the thing that finally moves things in the direction of the legislation, right? And of course, this comes down when Florida State is trying to make a power move by suing the ACC and getting out of their deal with the ACC. It's
They
always
penalize they penalize the offensive coordinator specifically, right? Like
it was a couple of coaches, man. It's a couple. Let's get into it now, and then we can squeeze it into the first half now. So that was the update on Rod Hurd transferring and a little background on who Notre Dame is getting at the safety position with Rod Hurd, the second transferring in from Northwestern. Now, this is from Yahoo Sports. Ross Dellinger had it, and the association The NCAA is finally dropping the hammer. The association is levying significant penalties on Florida State football, one of its NIL collectives, and a booster, as well as an assistant coach for NIL related recruiting violations and the most serious and unprecedented sanctions handed down in the first 2.5 years of NIL. Multiple sources with knowledge of the decision and penalties spoke to Yahoo Sports under condition anonymity. The sanctions, wide ranging and broad, are tied to a spring 2022 recruiting event and are part of a resolution negotiated between the school and the NCAA. A Florida State assistant coach, offensive coordinator Alex Atkins, is found to have committed two level two violations, which include impermissible recruiting activity and facilitating impermissible contact with an NIL-related booster. Atkins is alleged to have driven a prospect and his parents to a meeting with a leading member of the school's NIL collective, Rising Spear. So this is what we said, Left, right? We knew, even with it being the Wild West, we knew that, the rules say that the collectives have no direct correlation to the actual institutions. We all knew that was a lie. And if you got caught doing this, then you're just a dumb criminal. Period. As Alex Atkins has to be a dumb criminal. Because Alex Atkins could have found a GA, he could have found anyone to do this. But when you get the feeling that everything is the wild, wild west, and no one's thinking the NCAA is going to come down on me because everybody's getting away with it. And they just had, Florida State, Alex Atkins, the Rising Spear collective, they're all in trouble, man. And the NCAA had to pick one. You knew eventually they were going to pick one to make an example out of. And it seems Florida State, Mike Norvell, his assistant coaches, and that collective down there are going to be the first example for the rest of college football.
Yeah, somebody got to go down first just so the NCAA can make an example out of somebody. And unfortunately, it's the team that's been making the most noise. So it almost shows you if you're making a lot of noise, you're going to get audited, essentially. So I think this is a NCAA's clever way to respond to them, trying to get their way into legal proceedings with the college football selection committee. So, it's a big game where they all help each other out, and I think that was their way of squashing that issue right there.
Breaking news, Ross Dellinger just put out that Mike Norvell and Florida State have agreed to a new 8-year contract paying him $10 million a year. This is what we said. This is what getting you to the playoff does, right?
Yeah, schools are gonna keep your coaches.
Even though he didn't make it,
they like, well, we know we're gonna make the 12, and we would have had a chance, and it would have been this and that. So that's what these playoffs have done is secured coaches. So where coaching staffs have to actually do something.
yeah,
The coaching carousel, I think, will slow down a little bit just because these 12, 15 potential teams are going to want to hold on to their coaching staffs and not let them just fly to like an Alabama willy-nilly.
yeah, it is very, very interesting what's going on down in Tallahassee. Mike Norvell gets the 8-year extension, $10 million per year. And then heavy sanctions being levied upon that program because of the NIL. Talking about level 2. Now, level 2 is probably some restrictions, recruiting restrictions, maybe a scholarship or two. But other than that, with Norvell getting the extension, they still should be able to operate. They still should be able to operate. But it's a mess, man, because they don't want to be in the ACC. And the SEC that wants no part of them until they handle their litigation with the ACC moving forward. So I have no clue what's going to happen with that. But that's Florida State and the sanctions that are going to be levied via the NCAA because of an assistant coach, offensive coordinator Alex Atkins, and the Rising Spear NIL collective.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that the Michigan thing would be more of a pressing issue considering that they actually were found to be actually cheating. So if the NCAA really wanted to come down on something, they would have made a grandstand of it and did something about their championship. But to see how they acted fast on Florida State just shows you that they pressed the wrong button. Florida State done pressed the wrong button, and they was like, "Oh, for real? You going? Oh, okay, we got something for that."
Man, the committee picked on Florida State. The NCAA picked on Florida State. They can't get away from the ACC. It's tough down there, man. It's tough, and I'm sure the board of regents are having daily conversations, daily phone calls to try and figure out how to sort out all of this stuff.
And I bet you
And
they're not gonna try to contest the NCAA anymore. I think this is the
no,
overarching
as the
state.
reporting said, they've settled. Like they
Yeah,
negotiated the
they said,
sanctions.
yeah, okay,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
get it.
Like, dude, you got us. We understand. Let's sit here and negotiate these sanctions and kind of soften the blow. Lucky Lefty podcast. So, with all of that being said, you know what time it is. What's smoking? What's smoking? Fashion Geek, AlonzoJackson.com, Fashion Geek. We run the city. Yo, this Alabama situation with Nick Saban is still smoking. And one of the greatest things that I've seen from this is that it seems like everyone has unanimously decided I do not want to be the guy to succeed Nick Saban. I do not want to be that guy. I fully understand why Kirby Smart said no. I fully understand why Steve Sarkisian said no. $20 million buyout. I have no clue. And maybe Alabama's like, man, we don't care. But the $20 million buyout would have made me say no to Dan Lanning. Like, no, I'm not giving you $20 million. You can't beat Kalen DeBoer. See, this is the funny thing. I'm like, you can't even beat Kalen DeBoer with more talent. Why
That's
would I
true.
bring you to Alabama? I could just go beat Kalen DeBoer with a $4 million buyout. Like, I have
That's
no
right.
clue why they were sweating Dan Lanning like that. I understand the SEC background, the connection to Kirby Smart, all of this. Nick Saban likes him. Man, look, if I was an Alabama Board of Regents, I'm like, you're no longer the coach, man. I'm not forking over $20 million to that dude who couldn't beat Kalen DeBoer with more talent.
It's gonna be interesting because, like we said, the scales have been balanced. Saban out the game. It's hard to tell. Yeah, Kirby is a good favorite, but not having the Bama Bowl Invitational anymore.
Mm-hmm.
SEC getting larger, recruiting getting stronger for these teams to bring back some of the traditional programs. Well, excitingly enough, I mean, hey, these top recruits, these 5 stars can't just all fall at one or two schools. Back then, you get off from Alabama, you're on your way. You're
Yeah,
on your way.
right.
Now it's okay, what coaching staff plus the right deal can I get to? And these new generation coaches with the Dan Lannings and the tree of the Sabins and all of that, all these guys are still unproven in my opinion. Lincoln Riley's unproven.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Lanning's unproven. Tommy Reese ain't done. Kalen DeBoer even. So the
You think
flash,
Kalen DeBoer is unproven as far as championships? That's what you mean?
yeah, just in terms of the long term success. Like, there's
Mm.
not a guy like off the top of your head a Kirby Smart where you know that okay, top 3 coaches in the game right now.
Right.
Everybody else is who had the last best season. Who's had the hottest season the last? But there's no Sabins in the game. There's only a Kirby Smart and then who else? Your Davo Sweeney's, but his is in question.
Yeah.
Ryan Day's in question.
Oh, definitely.
There's Jim Harbaugh. We don't even know if he's gonna be back. Cristobal's everywhere.
Right.
Lanning's been everywhere. Marcus Freeman's trying to come up. So, from a coaching standpoint, how many locks are there out there? Considering all these guys are trying to create some staple of a program
Yeah.
and stick there long enough to get that Saban credit. Right now, nobody has a Saban credit. So as a recruit, it's a little harder now. You a 5-star. Now you can go to Texas. Recent success. Steve Sarkisian is a good coach. He's had tumultuous years at Texas as well. Let's
Yeah.
not forget, he ain't just been running the game now.
Right. Right.
He finally got him a quarterback. Defense played a little better. You can do some things. So a lot of these, young guys that are great play callers but terrible team builders are all head coaches now. you know what I mean? So it's which one is going to be a David Shaw, who's a great program builder, consistent, does it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, all these teams in schools and programs want to hire who can get the most flashiest, creative stuff out of the youngest guy going, even though they ain't got a young guy.
Yeah.
So who are the security blankets? Who are the locks in college football? We don't know. I mean, it'd be good to see that become identified to what coaches can stand the rain, what coaches can make that 12, what coaches can get and do well in that 12. I think now we can rank coaches a lot better outside of just saying, oh, this guy can get you a Heisman at a quarterback. Oh, this guy can get you 8 wins. Oh, this guy can beat, the top dogs of the time. Now it's Dan Lanning, shoot, he a top 5 coach. He making the playoffs and getting you 2 rounds every year.
Right.
Now that's a resume. Now when you shopping around for coaches, hey, I'm taking that. I'm not living on the Mac Brown won a championship 20 years ago, Hall of Fame coach, and giving me mediocre seasons now. Now we can say, oh, Ryan Day, Marcus Freeman, they get you deep in the playoffs. That's a leverage. That's a bargaining value. Oh, this quarterback, what's his name? JJ Daniels want to transfer again for the 4th time. Okay, he's got some playoff resume in there that can help our team. He won a couple games there.
Yeah.
If Riley Leonard was a playoff winner of a couple games, I think the transfer would make a hell of a lot of sense. That would make me convinced, okay, hell, he may have some iffy numbers, but that brother don't want a playoff game. And I know guys in our room hasn't. So I feel really good about one of those kind of things. So I think having a playoff system would have helped us understand Sam better. You won 50 games in college, or you started 50 games in college and got no playoff wins. Oh no, Marcus Freeman, we can't add that. We can't add that from the transfer. He ain't got no playoff wins, right? I mean, I think that would be a great evaluator if I was a GM of a team. Just saying. I think I can get the right people in, but I do think that the state of which we're moving, you're gonna tell a lot. I see talking about James Franklin in the chat. James Franklin is a great person who cannot hide any longer with having 8, 9, 10 win season team. He's a guy that, okay, James Franklin, we believe in you. There's a lot of hate, but we believe in you. But what you doing in these playoffs? Because now you don't got to be perfect. Before, university had to rely on the unrealistic expectations of teams going undefeated and getting put into the playoffs. Now it's, okay, losing a couple games, no big deal. We can take that. But you're getting that 12, what can you do? Now we got to really put the metal to the grindstone. I think that's good for college football. We can see a development of players. Now, before people used to comment and say, the league's getting younger, guys aren't getting coached. I guarantee you now with this playoff system, guys going to have to get coached. Because the coach is going to have to coach if they want to stay, because the playoff system is only allowing 12 teams a year. So you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's to develop your young guys or your transfers or whoever, because if you don't, you're not going to last game 13, 14, 15. Season's too hard. So overall, I think that what is interesting is the Bama replacement, the transfers and the recruitment of Bama, how that affects college football. I think you'll see a lot more guys leaving out, which is plenty pickings, for the rest of the schools out there. I mean, a 5 star is still a 5 star. And I think the perception of SEC dominance is going to be more evened out because now the SEC was so top heavy that it gave the perception that the SEC is just the most dominant conference by far. With the expansion, with Nick Saban taking a step down,
Dude, the SEC needs to cut Urban Meyer and Nick Saban both checks because we talked about it yesterday. Before Nick and Urban Meyer got to the SEC was, dude, the SEC won the inaugural BCS championship. That was when Tennessee beat Florida State. Florida State comes back the next year. What goes perfect, wins the championship, and then you start to enter into, because we were coming after Nebraska dominated. They went back to back. And we were coming out of that, we go into the BCS, and then all of a sudden it's the Big East, right? With Miami, those dominant 2000, 2001 teams. Then you have Ohio State jumping there, right? And then here comes Texas winning, right? Because Texas, they defeat USC in 2005. USC goes on that run with Pete Carroll. So now you got the Pac-12, you got the Big 12, you got the Big 10, ACC, the Big East. SEC is like every now and then. Here comes Urban and Nick. Nick with LSU in '04 when they beat Oklahoma, right? And then here comes Urban in Florida, right? They beat Oklahoma. And then I think the Urban Meyer Tim Tebow team underachieved. Like, go watch their documentary. And when you watch
definitely
the
underachieved.
documentary, with all the talent they had, they underachieved. They should have done more, in my opinion.
Yeah,
But then once it hit '07 with Nick Saban and Bama, it was SEC, SEC, SEC every year, right? They forced everybody else to elevate their programs in the SEC. They forced Auburn to step up. They forced LSU to step up, right? So, yeah, they need to cut a check. They need to cut a check to Urban Meyer and Nick Saban for what they brought. What they brought was big Midwest Big Ten football to the SEC. That's what they brought. Ohio coaches, I'm gonna go ahead and give a shout out, Left.
they brought the size down to the
They
SEC,
brought the size down to the SEC, put it with the speed, and there you go.
and nobody from the SEC or that side of the country can come up to the Midwest and do the same, or the North and do the same for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Half the time they don't want to go up there, which is very interesting, as opposed to Urban being the one to go up there to Ohio State. Outside of that, how many coaches that are successful in the South region as a coach traveling north
Mm-hmm.
and going to Big Ten? Because I don't see anybody else doing it. Urban was the only one. All them other coaches try to bottom dwell back down in the South is somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it is interesting to see how the North influence on the South football has made it the most dominant for that decade that it's been. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
hell, Urban showed you what happens in reverse at Ohio State. He brought a bunch of speed and guys from all over the South and from all over the country on a national scale to Ohio State, and they were by far size and speed. And the Big
Mm-hmm.
Ten was the dominant factor for years.
Like you said, man, Michigan State, what he built in Michigan State, he brings it to LSU, championship. Goes to Alabama, 6 titles. You know, that combination of the Midwest mentality and what they brought, and they put it with speed, and it was the perfect formula. And it took the rest of the country a long time to catch up. And the counter by everyone else was what? Spread them out, right? Okay, they're big and physical up front. We got to spread these dudes out and make them run. And then Nick Saban was still able to adjust to that, right? He won multiple championships with game managers as quarterbacks. Things changed. He said, you know what? Let me start recruiting these 5-star quarterbacks. He did it, and he won. It is, it's why he's considered the greatest coach of all time in college football. But it was very interesting to hear, very interesting to hear from Coach Saban in his own words that in recruiting and the transfer portal, his age was being used against him. And it echoes what Roy Williams said when he decided to step away from North Carolina. It was the same thing with him. You know, his age was being used to negatively recruit against his program. And he said, yo, it's time for me to step away because the changing landscape of college basketball is not something. And no, I would be best for the program to step away at this time so they can find the right guy to take them into the future. Honestly, I think that's the decision that for Notre Dame fans, Jack Swarbrick made. Jack Swarbrick just decided, like, yo, this is not me. This is not the college football I know. Let me step to the side and let me allow somebody named Pete Bavacqua to come in and lead Notre Dame into the future of college football.
Yeah, I think the guys that have got stuck in their customary ways and figured the game out, quote unquote, and had the game how they liked it and shaped it and maneuvered around the rules and regulations and loopholes and were big influencers into that way the game was played. They're like, man, the game's over for us. It's a whole new game. I won't be able to hold my weight like I used to. I don't have the energy for it, and I don't have the command that I feel like, had us so dominant for so long. And I think it's a good time to bow out because now if you get caught in this storm and you start looking bad, it'll change everything people think of you.
Hey, so Left. Go ahead, finish what you got to say because I want to get over to the quarterbacks.
So I think that now, which is a good time for guys like Marcus Freeman to embrace this new side of things with a new fresh AD to tackle this. I think if Marcus Freeman's a little older, he'd probably be on the borderline of leaving or quitting himself. But I think he's game for the change, and I think that was Jack's best foresight is to put a guy in there that's going to be able to handle that. Because his NIL thing has been the computer to what paper and pencil was to the college football level.
Man, you said it right, man. Lucky Lefty podcast. Left, did you see this? Rick Spielman, former GM of the Minnesota Vikings. Since we're about to transition to quarterbacks, he was on a podcast and he said he would take Caleb Williams over every quarterback except one. I want you to check this out. Check this out, L Nation.
Draft class, Caleb was the first quarterback taken, right?
Yes.
The one before that, Trevon Walker went first, so certainly there. What about 2021 when Trevor Lawrence went first? You taking Trevor or Caleb?
Caleb.
2020, Joe Burrow or Caleb?
Caleb.
Wow. 2019's Kyler, you're taking Caleb there. 2018's Baker, you're taking Caleb there. So you probably have to go back to, I'll go to 2012, Andrew Luck or Caleb?
That's a toss-up for me. Because I thought Andrew Luck was one of those generational franchise quarterbacks, but I would be real close, but I would probably go with Luck just ahead of Caleb. But right there, 1A and 1B.
1998, who you got? Peyton or Caleb?
Caleb.
Over Peyton?
Peyton was back then, that was in vogue, the pocket passer. Caleb, the notch up just because of the athleticism.
1983, you were in your 20th year in the league by then. Elway or Caleb?
Oh, they're similar type players too.
Caleb. Oh my God, you're going back like I went on.
That's Dan Marino calling you.
Fam, look, man. I could put him on the petty train. That dude, I love Caleb Williams, bro. I think I've been upfront with that plenty of times, right? This is what I don't like about this whole discussion. And I've been very outspoken on this. I don't have to campaign for Caleb Williams, bro. He's done it on the field. See that? Dude, that's one of the greatest lessons about Jesus to me, bro. When they asked him, yo, who are you? And he responded, who do men say that I am? Don't worry about what I say about myself. What are the people saying about me? What are the people saying? It's like, dude, Caleb, his career has spoken for itself. Everybody trying to critique, pull out one game, do all this stuff. Talk about fingernails. Nobody care about fingernails, dude. Can't you spin the ball? How do you spin that pig? That's what matters. How you gonna spin that pig on Sundays? I don't care if you got red paint on, green paint on. How do you spin that pig on Sundays, right? And I'll say this, dude. And I talked to Brian Driscoll about this yesterday, and he flat out agreed. Drake May has not been impressive this year. He hasn't, but nobody wants to talk about it. There have been no national stories about Drake May. Go look at his stats, because everybody talks about how Caleb's stats have dropped. Go look at Drake May's stats. Go look.
Well, I've been quoted as already saying that he's the most highly rated, undermentioned, flying under the radar, least media attention, top prospect that I've ever seen. Because not only does he not get too much bad criticism, he gets no criticisms. He only gets placed at the 1A, 1B level of top quarterback prospects since the beginning of the last year. And you watching him on Saturday every night and watching them lose tight ones where he should win, or him throwing too many picks or not playing as well as last year. And it's just like they're just, oh, it's all good. He's the number 2 pick. I'm like, wait a minute, where is any criticisms? Because I'm pretty sure he may have won one game better than Caleb this year. Drake May hasn't won the Heisman, wasn't invited to New York the last 2 years.
Right.
But he's the number 2 prospect of quarterback draft class. How? I believe that the brother's talented, but he deserves some type of attention to where Caleb has received everything.
Zero criticism, bro. Almost like
I've never seen it.
We have to keep him up here.
I've never seen it. Like I've never seen anything.
Right. Now, if you want to talk about, it's a viable question. If I was the GM and I had to go work out Drake May and Jaden Daniels, that's a viable. I really need to sit down and look at this. This is not a foregone conclusion that he's better than Jaden Daniels. It's not.
Where?
But people will have you believe like, oh, he's top 2. No.
Yeah, it's that's the thing. It's just top 2, no question. But you don't get no criticisms at all.
At all. And Rick Spielman,
I mean, like,
look, Rick Spielman is out of his mind. Look, because we're keeping everything in context.
Who are you not
based
taking?
Upon, I wouldn't take Caleb, dude. I wouldn't take Caleb over Pat Mahomes. But that's like,
it's like hindsight. It's hard. It's like the Peyton Manning thing.
Let's be honest. If I compare Caleb to what I saw Deshaun Watson do against Alabama 2 years in a row, that's a viable debate. Like Rick Spielman is making it seem like, oh, this dude is just the greatest thing ever. And that's the other side of the coin with Caleb. That needs to stop, man. This whole, either he's the greatest thing since sliced bread or he sucks. Like no one has context and objectivity when it comes to the court. And Rick Spielman has failed considerably at evaluating the quarterback position during his time as a GM, which is why I hope, because he is helping the Washington Commanders with their situations as far as getting a GM and also looking at quarterbacks. And I hope and pray he tells the Washington Commanders, look, man, you have to do everything you can to get Caleb Williams. Okay, give the Bears 3 first-round picks. I hope he tells the Commanders, do whatever you got to do to go get that number 1 pick.
3?
Yeah.
3?
I need 3. Give me 3. Give me 3. This year, next year, and the year after that. And you can have him. You can have Caleb Williams.
I don't know if they're going to do 3. I don't know if they're going to do 3.
If Rick Spielman is talking like this, and he's the one helping the Commanders, you know who he wants. He just told the whole world who the Commanders want. He just told the whole world.
The owner different than the GM.
Okay. So you don't think Magic wants a superstar? Caleb Williams ain't nothing but Magic Johnson on grass. That's all he is. He's Showtime on grass. You know it.
I think that Magic Johnson just getting that passive income. You know, he saw a good investment opportunity. His brother don't know nothing about football.
Josh Harris is looking for a star as well.
No, I believe they definitely need a star in Washington, like a Robert Griffin level impact rookie.
And they had one. If RG3 didn't get hurt, That's just bad luck. They had one.
And DC deserves. I mean, they need to fix that
Yeah,
grass though. But DC
yeah.
deserves something like that. And I think Caleb obviously is a perfect fit. He's from there.
Mm-hmm.
But those type of hometown stories don't always work. Like Joe Burrow. So I do think that it'll be an interesting draft. But the Drake May thing is a phenomenon in the media.
Mm-hmm.
It's a phenomenon. Like I've
Yes,
never
Lou.
seen. Like I've really never. At least Trevor Lawrence went 33-1. And his
That's what I'm
criticism
saying.
went to, well, he just so nonchalant. We don't know if he cared. That's criticism. I have heard nothing on Drake May. I've heard more about Drake May's relation to his brother at North Carolina than I've heard anything of a negative. I haven't. Do you know anything negative they've said about him? They
Ladies
don't
and
talk about
gentlemen,
his interceptions. They don't talk about him losing games. They don't talk about him not being no Heisman, haven't won
man.
nothing, hasn't won the ACC. He's just the number 2 prospect automatically. But Caleb, they even talked about Caleb's fingernails. They still floating around the story that he wants ownership of half of the franchise. They running with some crazy stories with Caleb, and Caleb got commercials. At least he won the Heisman. Drake
Right.
May had won nothing. He hadn't even played for the ACC championship. And he's just the automatic number 2, possibly number 1 to some people out here in the media. Quarterback prospect. He not Jane Daniels don't get no love over him. Michael Penix don't get no love over him. Bo Nix don't. Even Bo. Now they boosting Bo now.
Dude, he said he would take Caleb over Joe Burrow.
But you didn't know Joe Burrow was gonna do that rookie year though.
I watched Joe Burrow at LSU. I know that.
True.
I watched him at LSU. I know that.
But Jaden Daniels did better. So what we saying?
You okay? I see you because you're bringing in the running aspect.
Well, I mean, I think individually did better. I think Joe Burrow had a better team.
Yeah.
Defensively had a better offense, had a better coaching staff, but
Yeah. I agree with that. That's a good point, Left. I can rock with that. All right, Left. Let's get back to it, man. It's interesting. That's why I say, man, the conversations around the quarterback position in football lack so much context, dude, because people just go one side or the other, dude. And if you're not willing to look at facts and have context, it's like, dude, I love Caleb Williams, dude, but I'm not going over the top, calling this dude the greatest prospect, doing all of that. And I'm not saying silly stuff like this dude's soft. This dude, you don't even know the dude. You don't know him. Like, you can't make an honest, you can't. You're giving your opinion based upon stuff. If you want to give your opinion on somebody, dude, you know what I mean? People, dude, I think dudes that wear hoop earrings are soft. I could say that. That's my personal opinion. So if I
I
see a
mean, but to
quarterback,
get the man down to his fingernails,
it's corny.
it's
It's
corny.
because you don't know him, dude. You don't know him. You don't know him. And somebody said Lincoln Riley. Look, honestly, I don't know if Lincoln Riley quarterbacks have won a championship, but I'll say this. Lincoln Riley has 2 quarterbacks in the playoffs this year. And his quarterbacks go number 1. So I don't believe in that system quarterback stuff, bro, because they said Texas Tech quarterbacks couldn't come to the NFL and be good coming out of that system at Texas Tech. Well, the best quarterback in the NFL is from Texas Tech. So everything is individual. It's about the individual, dude. Lucky Lefty podcast. Left, go ahead, man. Break down what you want to see come this spring from every quarterback in the Notre Dame quarterback room. Let's start with the youngsters. What do you want to see from CJ Carr coming in as the new guy, Left?
Well, from CJ Carr, I really want to see how he's poses himself as the up and coming guy. You know, a lot of times in the program, when teams have a guy that they know is going to be good, whenever he gets his chance, CJ needs to form that idea.
Did we lose left? I think we lost left. Left was talking about he wants CJ Carr to come in and begin to form his identity. I think I know where he was going. His identity in the locker room. You can become a leader before you actually get the C on your chest in the program. And I think that's something that CJ Carr needs to do. Go ahead, pick up. He's
Yeah,
talking
so
about his
I got
identity.
cut off. But
Yeah.
he needs to form that identity that the building feels good of when he gets in, he's going to take off. He's already got the it factor, the likability where people feel good about him, but he needs to build that within practice, within those scout team reps his first year to really build that foundation that, man, we like what we have starting, but in a year, if CJ gets his turn, he's going to take off. That's what I would want to see. So, you know, whether that's Gino Gaduli and Marcus Freeman talking about him in the press conferences or seeing clips in practice of him doing well or his teammates speaking highly about how he's making guys better. That inches you closer to, when you get in the season for whatever reason, you're not surprising nobody. And people feel confident when you step in that for the first time, whether it's because somebody got injured or you're starting for the first time because we're not doing well. The team can rally behind a guy, even if they don't know if he's going to pan out, but they've seen all the steps taken to make them feel confident going out there with them. So that's just a diligent thing, working on being the guy when you're not the guy, which is a good place to be coming in considering your time to play should be by the end of the year. So I think that's something to look forward to.
All right, Kenny Minchie. What do you want to see from Kenny Minchie?
I want to see him be, one throw away ready. And be the dude. I know we got guys in, but his persona should be like he is the guy, he is the starter every day, and that every time he gets his opportunity, he's got to put on a performance to where they're going to make it hard not to play him. And I think that's going to come through early on. So you got to start fast and impress Marcus Freeman early that this may be competition, even though it may not initially be considering we paying a dude to play, but it should be an impact to where early on in the year, if things don't go right or if we're blowing teams out, he's the first call, he's the answer for whenever the main quarterback at the time isn't available. He needs to be the guy that, without question, he's warming up on the sideline or plugging in. And until he gets to play, a lot of his expectation is pushing the guy that's starting, not giving him any type of breaks in terms of him getting comfortable, because I think right now, creating that competition in the room in terms of, keeping guys on their toes with their performance is something that needs to be a standard set to promote a better showing week to week. I think that's the easiest position to get lazy at because, there's only one guy playing. Everybody becomes kind of like your co-worker, your best friend, because they've settled into what the depth chart is, because you don't just replace quarterbacks play to play, week to week. So you kind of form a support group with that. So I think pushing competition early on is going to help guys get and develop better, but also know that there's guys coming in the tank that they going to have to play at some point, and you don't want to be in the way of that.
All right, let's move up to Steve Angeli, someone that a lot of people feel like, give this dude a chance to really compete, start for the Fighting Irish. What do you want to see from? We've already seen improvement during the 23 season. Gino Gaduli did a really good job with Steve Angeli. What do you want to see from the kid out of New Jersey?
Well, it's really depending on how they're going to allow him to be in there. Obviously, they're not going to promote him to be the star of the team, which I think your quarterback has to have some of that in there. However, it's just depending on how they're going to play it out, man. He's the most transferable guy in the room. I think he has the most justified case of leaving. Other than that, I would have a conversation with Marcus Freeman and say, what are we doing here? Are we just giving it to him? Am I, quote unquote, fake pushing him? What do we do? Because I don't feel like at this point we paying anybody to just come and not play. You know, so there's a little more insurances behind Riley coming than it would be 4 or 5 years ago. How Jack came. When Jack came, it was still Tyler's team or Tyler's job to win. I don't think that's the case in this scenario. So outside of transferring, I think just getting a plan of action of what is best for him, but also how he can be a value on the team. Because if I'm Marcus Freeman and I'm doing this move, I'm thinking about Kenny.
Yeah.
Riley and Kenny being 1 and 2.
Right.
And CJ damn near 2B.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
All right.
You don't fit in the equation almost.
Yeah. Let's go. Riley Leonard, man. Big expectations, I'm sure, coming from you. But what do you expect, and what would you like to see from Riley Leonard this spring?
With all things included, he should be trying to work on getting to New York early and often.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely think Riley Leonard needs to be able to work on his case of being the best quarterback in the nation, statistically, because it's not much from a win standpoint you're going to prove, to me, in my own opinion, about winning in the regular season. I think all these games are very winnable for where we are as a program. So regular season wins aren't going to equate much to me throughout the season, but building your numbers throughout the season would. Having 300-yard ridiculous games, highlight plays, moments in the season to be rememberable for the end of the year where they start thinking about awards. That would be my expectation for what you're coming into and what we need from that position at this point. We need a Heisman type of leader, Heisman type of player at the quarterback position to lead us in a playoff system where we don't know. Nobody knows. But to have that strong point being that quarterback, I leave that in the dark room. So I think it's important that he keeps in mind his high level of play is not to be good enough. Yeah, we may win, but your numbers have to be contributing to the win. We're not taking no 150 yards passing, 80 yards rushing, and 1 touchdown, and we beat a team 45-20. You're not adding value. Now, you can get away with it, and a lot of people will. But I'm just saying, from my own opinion, playoffs is what's going to matter, and to really hold a staple in my mind to what the value added to Notre Dame, you got to win 2 playoff games.
Yeah.
You win 2 playoff games, I'll say it's all worth it.
I mean, that's the expectation, man. Heavy is the crown for the Notre Dame quarterback. I don't care who you are. So it is what it is. Lucky Lefty Podcast. Thank you for the GTB question, Rob Osgood. With the 12-team playoff coming left and 15 games, do you see, like in the NBA, players taking games off against weaker teams?
Well, for college football, it's not the pros. So, too deep on 90% of teams is not going to win you playoff games if they're playing majority of the time.
Yeah.
Hell, I say 95% of teams. Just imagine if Washington played against Texas with their twos. No Michael Penix, no. Come on. They probably wouldn't win a game. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah.
It's unlike professional where they all getting paid and they all good. College football is too big to just not be playing your starters in big games. You can probably get away with it in regular season, but you're not taking. If I'm a coach, I'm not taking no chances resting nobody, even if it was winnable.
Yeah. Ryan Loftus said, "You hitting the gym yet?" Referring to you talking about you were upset about looking at the scale the other day.
That's right. Well, I'm starting with the whole changing of the diet, trying to work on fasting first. Then I'm going to add the workout back. I've just been so lazy working. Maybe it's the taking off after 20 plus years of working out. Kind of feels good not to have to
do that.
Get up and work out at 6 in the morning. But, the discipline, installing that is always good and getting back to that. But definitely it's more of a diet thing. I think if anything, is when it comes to weight, it's a diet thing
more than
first. It's like 70-30 diet thing.
Yeah.
Because the weightlifting, that, I can lift in a minute and be big. So.
Yeah, Lucky Lefty Podcast. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget audio edibles each and every day. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube channel. Hit it up. We have the question of the day up at YouTube now. In order to be a great coach in Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman has to win how many championships? One, two or more, or
Yeah, come
become
on,
the
let's be
winningest
honest.
coach.
One, what we gonna say two? Because who are you expecting to? Come on now.
Man,
We ain't got enough.
my fault. Go ahead.
We ain't, we almost had to end it on such a ridiculous question.
No, I'm just saying.
We almost had to end it on a ridiculous. Why would we expect more than two from?
Hey,
Come on now.
one is
I know
winning,
we
by the
have
way.
our
We'll
expectations,
talk
but
about
let's
it
not.
tomorrow. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Have a great day, man. Make sure you spend it different.